It's the realist.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your guy Realistic, and welcome to my tutorial vault. That's right, I'm gonna start grabbing some of my most classic tutorials over the years out of the vault and re-releasing them. That way y'all can enjoy, get your mixing and mastering skills back up. So if you find any of the information useful, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way this keeps showing up in your feed, and sit back and enjoy the content. So let's dive into why we should mix at low volume. So I decided to do this video because, you know, on my Instagram stories, I post a lot of behind the scenes stuff of me in the studio and a lot of stuff I'm working on. And anytime that I post about me mixing at low volumes, or I show how low of a volume that I'm mixing at, I always get a bunch of DMs and replies on that of people who are like, oh wow, why would you do that? Or, what's the point of that? Or, a lot of people are like, nah man, you gotta mix way louder than that, man. Come on, that's crazy. Shit's gotta smack. So I decided to do a video on why I mix at low volumes and the benefits of that. So as far as the actual low volume that I set up here is, I'm setting it up to conversation level. And what that means is I should be able to hear somebody across the room and have a conversation with them while my actual mix is playing. I should be able to hear them just fine. Some people go as far as pulling out an SPL meter and actually setting it to be at a certain dB value. Like, I think, people try to set it at like 65 dBc or something like that. I don't go that far where I'm whipping out an SPL meter. I kind of just go off of what I'm hearing and just kind of adjust that. But, anytime somebody comes into the studio or something and I'm mixing, they can hear me just fine and I can hear them just fine. So that's about as low as I'm mixing. It's fairly low. It's definitely not too loud to where, I'm hurting my ears, and it's definitely not too loud where I can't hear anything. And then what I like to do, this is just kind of a little extra like realistic tip here that I got for you, but what I like to do is I actually, before I turn the volume down, is I like to actually hit my dim switch on my interface here, and then what I like to do is then I like to turn the volume down as the dim switch is engaged. So I got my dim switch to where it drops it down by 15 dB, and the reason why I like to hit the dim switch and then lower the volume is because I'm mixing at this lower volume. If I ever want to hear it loud, because sometimes I do want to reference the mix of what it sounds like at a louder volume, then I can just hit that dim switch and it will bring it up by 15 dB. So then I can kind of listen to, how the sub frequencies are hitting, if I can feel that in my body, and, kind of just how everything's smacking and hitting like that. And then I can just drop it down and go back to my mix as far as where I'm mixing at. So that's just a little tip right there of how to get the most out of mixing at low volumes if you do want to reference at a louder volume. It's almost the dim switch in reverse, because when I hit the dim switch, now I'm going louder. Okay, so let me go into reasons why I even want to mix at low volumes. There's a few reasons. So one of the reasons why is I can actually hear dynamic processing better. And so when you lower your volume down and you kind of hear it at more of a conversation level, what you can do then is you can hear how the compressors are really reacting. You can hear how they're hitting the transients. You can hear how they're impacting the actual gain reduction. You can hear if they're squashing things. You can hear if it's pumping a little bit too much. So that's the first reason right there. You can really hear what your compressors and other dynamic processing is doing. Now, the next reason of why I mix at low volumes and why I think you should also mix at low volumes is because you can hear volume imbalances better, and actually you can really hear volume imbalances really good at low volumes. This is actually the real secret sauce of why a lot of professional engineers do mix at lower volumes, because they can hear those so well. A lot of times when we're louder, everything is, just out there. Everything's just in your face, so you can't necessarily maybe hear where the volume imbalances are, because everything just sounds loud. And so when we turn it down, then we could hear, what's really popping out. We can really get the volume of the vocals to sit right, the volume of the snares, the kicks, the bass, everything can really start to pop out. And then at a lower volume, you may be able to hear too much of something, like, oh, okay, this vocal is like way too loud. And so you can bring that down. Or there may be something like, like a little percussion instrument or something in the background, and now you can't even hear it. And so now you know to bring that up. I know for me, there's been a lot of times when I used to mix at louder volumes, and then I would bring the volume down, or I would later on, hear it at a lower volume if somebody had it on in the car or something, and I'd be like, whoa, I did not realize the snare was that loud, the vocal was just too much. So you really be able to figure out those volume imbalances, and when you're mixing at low volumes, you're going to be able to get an incredible balance with your mix. Okay, the next reason why it's important to mix at low volumes is, let's face it, louder makes everything sound so much better. It makes the drums sound like they're smacking harder. It makes the vocals sound like it's cutting through a lot more. Louder volumes can be pretty deceiving, and so when we actually turn the volume of it down, we can actually kind of hear how things are. So if you can get your drums to smack and your vocals to cut through the mix at lower volumes, just imagine how great and incredible those are going to sound at louder volumes. And so, like I said, the louder volumes can be deceiving and really trick us, and that's why when we actually bring it down to lower volume, we can actually hear what the mix is really doing. We can actually really hear the mix for what it is. Okay, my final reason right here, it's an obvious one, but it really does make a difference. You get less ear fatigue when you mix at lower volumes, and so you can mix for longer. And then the obvious too is you'll be able to make your ears last for, you'll put years on your ears if you can mix at lower volumes. And when it comes to engineering, and producing, our ears are one of the most important, if not the most important aspect of what we're doing, because we only are able to go off of what we hear. So you'll be able to make your ears last for a lot longer, but also you can mix a lot longer throughout the day. If I'm mixing at really loud volumes, my ears are going to start to get fatigued, and I'm not going to be able to hear things quite as well. And, I'm going to start to get like misleading sounds, and I'll only be able to get like, a few hours out of that. Versus if I mix at lower volumes, I mean, there's some days when I'm able to get 8 to 12 hours of mixing in. And, I do that 5 to 6 days a week where I'm mixing for about 8 to 12 hours a day. And so that lower volume allows me to be able to do that, and allows me to get through a lot longer days like that, and without having to take as many breaks, or without having to, mentally prepare myself for such loud mixes. So those are my reasons of why I think mixing at low volumes can really help your mix. It's something that a lot of professional engineers do, and it really is a game changer, and I think it's going to enhance your mixes instantly, and you're going to see the noticeable differences. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this tutorial. If you found it useful, be sure to like and subscribe, because it does help the channel grow. When you like a video, it tells YouTube that you liked it, and maybe other people will like it as well. And also be sure to check out my online mixing and mastering courses, the art of beat mixing, the art of vocal mixing, and the art of mastering, all available now. And if this video was helpful and you're looking for other videos, you can watch a video here, here, and here. All right, until next time, y'all.